What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Swift video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about convenience initializers, what they are, and how to use them. So here we are on the Swift documentation website, specifically on the initialization page. And right here, we have a brief definition that, initialization is a process of setting up an instance of a class, structure, or enumeration to be used. So there are, different types of initializations or initializers, rather, I should say, that you can add to a object designated versus convenience. And we're going to focus on convenience today. So if that all sounds good, make sure you start by destroying the like button down below. Helps out quite a bit. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're into iOS, definitely hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Let's get into convenience initializers. All right, so we're going to get started by opening up Xcode and creating a new project. We're going to stick with the app template under iOS. And let's go ahead and call this Convene Init. Make sure your language is set to Swift, your interface is Storyboard, and Lifecycle UI Kit. Go ahead and continue, save the project wherever you'd like. We'll toss it onto our desktop for now. And first things first, we're going to expand our Xcode window. We'll close up this right panel since we don't need it. I'm also going to go ahead and pick a 12 Pro Max simulator. Go ahead and hit that Run button. And let's jump into our viewcontroller.swift file. So instead of working in a playground and talking about theory, I figured we would do a real world example since that's probably more useful. So what we want to do is we are going to basically initialize another view controller. And from a button, we're going to present it. Now, in that other view controller, we're going to add a convenience initializer to really demonstrate what the heck a convenience initializer is. So I'm just going to create it down here at the bottom of this file. So I'm just going to say second view controller. It's going to, of course, inherit from UI view controller. And we are going to have a view did load in here. We'll say super view did load. And let's just for now go ahead and say that the background color on this guy is going to be red. Now on this initial view controller, all I'm going to do is add a button. And we go ahead and tap on that button. We will present that other controller. At the moment, UI view controller comes with a pretty standard initializer. So we're just going to use that to instantiate it, but then we're going to add our own convenience initializer. So just bear with me to get this button put together. We're going to go ahead and create it. We'll add it as a sub view. Let's go ahead and center it into this view. I'll also go ahead and, of course, add a title to it of tap me for the state of normal. And of course, when we tap it, we want something to happen. So we're going to go ahead and add a target of self, a action, which is going to be a selector of did tap button, and of course, an event of touch up inside. And let's go ahead and create this action down here. It's going to be an Objective-C annotated function. And in here, we're going to actually instantiate that other controller we created. So we'll say VC equals second view controller. That's not what we want. There we go. Second view controller. I'll just copy and paste it because autocomplete loves to not work when I record videos. So we're going to say open close parens. And here, all we're going to do is say present VC. And we're going to say animated true. So let's go ahead and hit Command R to build and run this guy. We should see a button right in the center here in our controller once this decides to load. So let's see, where is our button? I am not seeing it. Let me go ahead and give this a background color. Maybe I'm just missing it. Let's go ahead and make it a blue. Let me double check the frame here. We are definitely assigning its center. So let's see, there it is. Okay, so the color was white on it, makes sense. So we go ahead and tap it, and there is our red controller. So we're instantiating this controller with, this open close paren. And if you actually just do one open parenthesis, you'll see there are 3 different initializers on here already. One of them, you can create it with an NSCoder. One of them is simply instantiating it with no arguments. And one of them is with a nib name and a bundle. So most often you usually use this one if you build things programmatically. And this initializer actually comes from, I believe, the UI view controller itself. So if you command click into it, you'll see that there are these 2 initializers on here. And if you further keep on clicking, command clicking up into the UI kit objects, you'll see that there is an initializer that takes in no arguments. Now, what if we wanted to initialize this with a default value of something, right? So let's say we wanted to have our own initializer that takes in nothing. And here we're going to go ahead and say super init, right? We're going to pass a nil for the bundle and the nib name. This also requires us to bring in the required initializer. I'm just going to go ahead and say mark init. So this is a pretty standard initializer, no convenience going on yet. But what if when we wanted to initialize this controller, instead of setting the background color to red like this and view did load, let's say by default we set it in here. And what if we wanted a way where we can pass in a different color based on whatever we were doing that's separate, right? So let's say we wanted a convenient way to do that. So what we would do is we would say convenience init, and we can perhaps say in here convenience init with a color, which is a UI color. And in here, instead of saying super.init, what we would say is self.init. But this initializer, what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to stick a color in here, which by default is going to be red. And this one, we're going to reassign to be red. So let's go ahead and run this. And you'll see first and foremost, we have an error. So let's see why this is yelling at me. Let's see, invalid redeclaration of init with color, which makes sense. Let's call this init with a color. And now we're still going to get yelled at. And the reason, actually, we're not going to get yelled at because we actually defined a default value here. But if you open up this parenthesis again, you'll see that you have both of these now. So this is the standard initializer and this is the convenience initializer. So if we don't actually provide a color in here, what you'll see is what I expect to happen is that screen to still be red. And the reason that's going to happen is it's because it's using this initializer still right here. It's just using red as a default value. So let's say we wanted a way where we can, on init, we can go ahead and pass in a different color. So we can use the convenience initializer, which is more or less just going to proxy, right, self.init passing in the color, which we actually did not do. But it's going to basically proxy the with color into self.init, which is going to send it into this guy. So now I've gone ahead and said, initialize with blue. If we go ahead and do that, this guy is blue now. So you might be wondering, well, why the heck is this useful? Because it seems kind of verbose and redundant. Well, the truth is it kind of is. So the reason that they're actually called convenience initializers is to basically let you be lazy and save you time. So think about a situation, and I can actually do a small example here. So let's say if you're familiar with getting data from an API, let's say you have a model, and this is called person. Now let's say it's a codable model here, and let's say the person takes in a first name, and the person also takes in a last name. And whenever you get some JSON back from a network call, you can go ahead and assign these via codable. But let's say you have the opposite, where you have a dictionary of objects, of strings, and you want to pass in the dictionary. So we would have a standard initializer, which would take in a first name. And we're going to try to spell string correctly. It would take in basically the first name, comma, the last name. And right here in the constructor body of it, we would say self.firstname is equal to first name and self.last name is equal to last name. But what if I had a JSON body, a dictionary, something along the lines of the following? Let's say we have first, and we can say iOS, and we can go ahead and also say last. Let's go ahead and add that right below it. And this is going to be Academy. You can go ahead and say last here. What if I had this object and I wanted to create a person with this? Well, right now you can't because you need to pass in two strings just like that. What we could do here is we could say convenience init with JSON, which is going to be a string. And what I can go ahead and do for the sake of just force unwrapping, we can say self. So we can first say first is going to be from the JSON. Let's try that one more time. We're going to say let first is going to be JSON. And let's see why this is yelling at me. So let's see. Delegating initializers and structs are not marked as convenient. So that's a mistake that it caught. So we can actually just add this initializer. So we can actually do is say first, and this is going to be first. And I'm just going to go ahead and unwrap this with a force unwrap as a string. and this one's going to be last. You shouldn't really use this if you are building a production app, but since we know we're passing it, we'll just do that. And now what you can actually do is you can say self.init, and you can pass in the first name and the last name by simply saying first and last, and don't forget to change this constant right here as a last, just like that. So go ahead and hit Command B, and let's see what's going on here. So this is yelling at me that we don't actually need to unwrap it because it is already marked in the signature to be a string for the value, but we do need an exclamation point at the end of these because this key might be nil in the dictionary, or the value of that key. And now what we can do is we can say let person is a person with that JSON. Let's just go ahead and print out that person. And what you'll notice is that we get a fully constructed person down here in the console with the name iOS Academy. So convenience initializers, whether you put them in a struct without the actual convenience term, or you put them in a class with the convenience prefix, allow your initialization to be much more flexible and not have to, convert the dictionary here, in this case, into 2 strings. You can just pass in the whole dictionary. And that way, the call site of initialization of any type of object is far cleaner. It allows your code to be flexible and to be instantiatable from various places. And I'm not even sure if instantiatable is a word, but you guys get the idea. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Convenience inits end up showing up in a tremendous amount of places. Definitely use them if you haven't done so already. They help save a bunch of code. If you haven't, dropped a like down below. If you enjoyed the video, definitely hit that like button. It helps out all the videos quite a bit. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and into iOS and Swift. I try to post here daily. Leave a comment down below. What are you guys working on? Are you guys doing Swift UI, Swift, video suggestions? Love hearing from you guys. I try to reply to every single comment within a reasonable amount of time. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next one.